One of the hottest topics in the news lately, both nationally and here in Florida, has been immigration. And if you live in Southwest Florida, you might have seen stories and articles about the Collier County Sheriff's Office and our work with U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. But there are many misconceptions and even more questions concerning CCSO's relationship with ICE. Recently, Sheriff Kevin Rambosk sought to clear up any confusion surrounding his agency's work with ICE, which is the arm of the federal government that investigates illegal immigration. In this episode, you'll hear Sheriff Rambosk explain and detail CCSO's partnership in ICE's 287G program. Listen as Sheriff Rambosk describes how the program works, what powers it does and doesn't give to CCSO, and how it helps us continue to make Collier County one of the safest communities in the nation. This is Sworn Statement, a podcast by the Collier County Sheriff's Office under the direction of Sheriff Kevin Rambosk. I'm your host, Adam Fisher. This February, Sheriff Rambosk spoke to the Board of County Commissioners about how the 287G program works here in Collier County. The sheriff also did an interview with a local media outlet about the program. We tagged along with Sheriff Rambosk and recorded his comments. The sheriff dug into the history of the program, discussed some of the criminals it has allowed us to keep off the street, and looked at what the future might hold. But first, he offered a nuts and bolts explanation of how we apply 287G once someone enters our jail.
As far as the 287G program goes in Collier County, everyone that gets arrested and is brought into the jail for committing a crime against our residents, our neighbors, our businesses, and one another are all asked if they are a resident of the United States. That's where it all begins. If they are not, or they cannot prove it, we've got a legal responsibility to determine who is in our jail.
The 287G program is different from full immigration authority. It's actually limited authority given through federal statute that enables local law enforcement to be trained to utilize immigration and customs enforcement computers to do background checks and how to prepare interviews and the process for submitting those interviews for review to ICE. Once they do that, they have the ability to place a detainer. A detainer, for all intents and purposes, is an administrative hold. We ship those to Immigrations and Customs Enforcement in Fort Myers. They review it. If it meets the criteria, they will send that information back, and if the subject is about to be released back out into the public, or if they have finished their term as prescribed by the court, then that detainer will be placed. That person will be then moved without going back into the public, and then we move them and transport them out of our facility out to Chrome Avenue Detention in Miami. And that's for immigration court.
Sheriff Rambosk then went into specifics of the 287G program, including the number of ICE detainers we've placed and the number of crimes those individuals had been charged with. The sheriff also discussed how sending them to immigration court has significantly reduced our jail population, which results in reduced costs for the taxpayers.
When we first looked at this program years ago, we found out that 1/3 of the people in our jail that were arrested for committing crimes against our residents self-admitted to being here in this country illegally. So unfortunately, we were paying for all these people to be in our jail. They had already committed crimes against our residents, our neighbors, our friends, our families, their peers. And we thought that that was just an enormous amount of people that we didn't even know were here and had no control over.
So that really caused us to think about, what is the cost of that? What is the cost to victimization? What is the cost to operations? In a sense, we're paying a lot of money for all that, And we wondered if there wasn't an alternative that we could use. And virtually that's how we got to the point of getting involved in 287G to begin with.
So we looked into the program, it got started, and effectively what it does, it helps us remove criminals from the street so they stop committing more crimes.
Of those individuals that we have dealt with, there have been over 60,000 individual charges that are assessed to those individuals that we have dealt with. Some of them they have brought to us from other communities. They've committed a crime, they've come here, they've committed another crime, and we have totaled them all together. That's an average of 1 felony and 4 misdemeanors per individual that we have put through our 287G program. So we're not talking about good, hardworking people that want to be here for a better life. We're talking about people that are taking advantage of our residents in Collier County. That is really very, very important. They're involved in everything from domestic violence to child molestation to aggravated battery to battery on law enforcement. We've got very many specific cases that we could bring to you. Again, it's not everybody that's here, but the people that our program deals with are the people that need really to be dealt with.
So they're out committing crimes, and we're stopping that, both here and elsewhere. And we're saving money by transferring them to Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. So if you do both of those things, you wind up with a safer community and you're not paying as much for taxes to operate a much larger jail, because we went from 1,251 inmates down to an average today of 751. If you're here illegally and you've committed a half a dozen crimes prior to this, we don't want to put you back out in the street. We believe you should get your due process and go to immigration court.
It makes a significant difference, because over the last 17 years, we have placed over 11,500 detainers. Of those, 8,500 individuals, criminals, committing crimes in our community, have been turned over to ICE, and 7,500 plus have been removed back to their home country once their sentences have been fulfilled.
We have done more than 40,000 interviews for foreign-born individuals that have been arrested and brought to the jail. If you look at the percentage that we're here illegally, it's 54% of those. So in a community like ours, our population's really not that big. So if you just looked at the population versus the number of people that are here illegally that have committed crimes, I would say that that's too much for our community. But that's why we're involved in the program, because today we have gone from 1,251 inmates in our jail facility down to an average of 750 per day. And this program, along with 2 others, we have dropped the crime rate to its lowest point in history. So if you put all of that together and you address the right concern, the right problem, you can absolutely make a change, both now and for the future.
And you know, what I find when I talk to a lot of the public is, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter where you live, you want to live in a safe neighborhood, a safe community. You don't want to be threatened by domestic violence, by drugs, by burglaries to your home. Everybody wants the same thing, and that's exactly what we want. And if you want to visit, if you want to live, if you want to work, there are ways to do that, and we assist those people that want to do it, and many people are doing it the right way. If you're coming here to commit crimes, we really don't want you to be here. Really, it's as simple as that.
As the sheriff mentioned, right now 287G allows CCSO to check the immigration status of individuals only after they enter our jail. However, The sheriff would like to add the ability for CCSO deputies to investigate people with criminal backgrounds before they are arrested to determine if they are here illegally. That would allow us to turn them over to ICE before they are arrested for committing another crime. Recently, Sheriff Rambosk was in Washington, D.C. and discussed adding that investigative model of 287G with Tom Homan, who was the ICE border czar for President Trump.
And I'll tell you, we are so far ahead of everybody else nationwide. There are only 60 other organizations that do what we do with 287G, and more should absolutely do it. If you think about, there are 3,000 sheriff's offices throughout the country and 18,000 law enforcement agencies. This is a tiny part of this country that is engaged in this. So for us, there will be no difference there. What we're hoping to do is expand the program and get the second part, and that's the law enforcement investigation portion. We had it once before, but the memorandum of agreement ran out and it was not renewed. So we've asked that it be reinstated.
If we can put together a background of previous gang membership, previous felony arrests, illegal entry into the country together as a package, that's what the law enforcement model is all about, that we look at people who are here with criminal backgrounds and have the potential for committing additional crimes in our community. We would then send those to ICE. They would review them and put them through the same process as I just explained. So that element, the law enforcement model, we are asking and have already asked Mr. Homan to give us authority to go back into that system and make those cases.
And now we can go look for those people that we know are out there committing crimes. We know they're gang members. We've not been able to prove it to make an arrest on a state law, but we'll put together a package and take it to ICE and then ask for them to be considered to be moved to Chrome Avenue Detention and Immigration Court to review the case that we've put together. So no matter what you do, you get due process, whether you go through the normal state process or you go through federal immigration processes. We don't go out arbitrarily. We don't have the authority to go out arbitrarily into the community looking for people for other reason. This would be investigators who build a particular case on a particular person, almost like building probable cause for an arrest and placing a detainer or requesting a detainer from ICE. So right now there are probably 485 people that we would like to investigate. We don't know if they're all here in Collier County. I doubt they are, but they started here or they impacted us. And we're going to look for those who have a criminal past that either have or are intending to commit a crime here. We really do want the investigative program. That's our focus, only because we know that it works. We've had great success at it. We have the numbers to prove it, of both those that were successfully detained and the crime number reductions on the other side. So when people ask, well, why is that so important? Put those two things together, and again, safer community, safer state, safer nation.
The sheriff was also asked about defending our coastline. As more enforcement is applied to our nation's land border, there are concerns that more people could try to enter the country illegally by water. Collier County has roughly 30 miles of coastline, so it's an issue Sheriff Rambosk is watching closely, and one he says CCSO will be prepared for.
So, there's been a lot of discussion lately about, as we harden the borders, the southwest border, the north border, that it will start to push traveling in other directions. And we know, particularly in Florida, over the last 30 to 45 years, the smuggling routes for drugs, marijuana, cocaine, coming through the Caribbean, they are already in place. They've been used historically. And our concern is that when they are found out that they can't cross a hard land border, they will go back to the shipping lanes and come right through the Caribbean. And that's what we're interested in looking at for the next step in what we're doing. Historically, when we were talking about drugs, we had a variety of different task forces. One was the Blue Lightning Task Force. We were out in the water all the time with federal agents. We were sworn in as federal agents. So I think right now, land border is getting the most attention. We're just paying attention to the water because that is our border. Yeah. And we've seen it before, and we've tracked boats before, and we've stopped them and made arrests before, and we just think that it's coming, and we want to be ready for it.
Yes, we always look at that. We look at it from a couple of different perspectives. One is drug importation, as you're well aware, that we went through a lot of in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But we are concerned that as the rest of the hard border gets shut down, that there are already transportation routes in place from the Caribbean, particularly to Southwest Florida and the East Coast as well. So yes, we were looking at that. We are also working with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, who has erected a site with some technology that would help to see people coming on the water border and interdict them at the time. So we're with any changes that are coming from the federal level and the potential for investigation through the law enforcement model, we would like to address more of the water, and then how quickly could we put it in place?
Wrapping up, Sheriff Rambosk summarized the 287G program and discussed the future. Part of the future could include using the Immokalee Jail Center, which the sheriff calls IJC, as a holding center for those awaiting immigration court. And as the sheriff says here, he plans to do that within our existing budget, using outside money and grants, meaning no additional cost to taxpayers.
Where we want to go. We want to maintain the 287G program jail portion. We've made an official request of ICE to reinstate the law enforcement model and put that back in place. We've made an official request to expand the IGSA program for housing. Along with that comes our ability to negotiate with the federal government with regard to reimbursements for those individuals that we hold. So that's not going to be paid for by our taxpayers. We're going to look at what it takes for IJC to be made into a holding facility. Up until now, and up until the briefing that I got in Washington, D.C., there's a whole set of requirements to hold longer than 72 hours with regard to federal law. Mr. Homan, along with the administration, very clearly said, I don't know why we're making you live to a higher standard. If a resident in your community gets arrested and goes to your jail and you operate within the state's mandates for operation, and I can tell you we exceed all of those. We have 7 accreditations, 2 of them in our jail system. We operate under best practices. They don't see any reason why they have to throw on a bunch of inspections and more requirements to house people that have committed crimes. So we think that will be something that will be approved. And the good thing is, I would like to do this all within our existing budget. So we're not looking at any other costs. The costs to operate now were included in varying degrees of training. The 15 individuals that look at backgrounds, they are actually intake deputies who are here to book prisoners anyway. We are looking for what opportunities there are to make our system better. And the other thing I get asked a lot is, well, we're just looking at one country of origin for people. We have 70 different countries of origin over this time. And certainly Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala, there are more in that category, but we have Russia to China in who we're dealing with. So we have a lot of people that come through the system, And I'll go back to even when we started the program, we did a lot of community outreach from the beginning in 2007. We have continued to do that through last week, meeting with individuals and groups throughout the county in the Immokalee area down to the East Naples area, re-informing them, reminding them of what we do here in our community with 287G, and that has been pretty successful. We also always take care of our victims, no matter who you are. We have assisted in providing U visas to criminal victims, and we've probably done the most in the nation, again, to preserve and protect those who reside here in Collier County.
I would like to see all law enforcement agencies, particularly sheriff's offices, become part of the 287G program at whatever level they're able to do that to start. There is a WSO portion of the program which allows any trained law enforcement officer to provide an ICE hold to the individual so that they don't leave the jail system. They could do a full 287G program like we are doing. We think that's the best. It works the best for us. And then if we can go find people who are out there looking to commit crimes, that's the next part that I hope is included, that everyone will be able to investigate individuals, bring their information, their probable cause to believe that they are a threat, and get that to ICE.
For more information on CCSO's involvement with the 287G program, visit our website at colliersheriff.org and type 287G into the search bar. This has been Sworn Statement, a podcast by the Collier County Sheriff's Office under the direction of Sheriff Kevin Rambosk. This episode was edited and produced by me, your host, Adam Fisher, with audio recording by Brian Barcelo and Andrea Jones. Thank you for listening.